Over and over again, we hear that Sussex County is a wonderful place for bringing up children, and for many families that may be true. However, some children go home to a house that has secrets. The secrets may be drug and alcohol investment on behalf of the caretaker, who usually look after their drug and alcohol addiction before their children's needs are met, and that includes medical needs. Some children find that their houses have domestic violence, domestic abuse, and they are constantly walking on eggshells and filled with anxiety. Some children face physical abuse in their homes, which may leave bruises or marks, and is often accompanied by insults. Other children may find that the secret is sexual abuse, and the only witnesses to that are the abuser and the victim. Often the victim has been told that he or she will never be believed and bad things will happen if they tell. When we do learn of abuse, there are many different professionals who need to be involved with that child and that family. Child Protective Services, law enforcement, assistant prosecutors, medical professionals, mental health professionals, domestic violence experts, and drug and alcohol counselors, as well as family advocates. All of these professionals work together with the child and family, but the response needs to be coordinated. In Sussex County, we have Ginnie's House Children's Advocacy Center, which acts as the hub for the multidisciplinary professionals to work with the children. But we cannot do this alone. We need you, our fellow professionals, and the fellow citizens of Sussex County to help to identify children who are being abused or neglected. The purpose of this video is to show the different types of abuse, the different signs and symptoms of abuse, how to react if a child discloses abuse to you, what to say, what not to say, and how to report that abuse. And then, because reporting is a very uncomfortable circumstance for most people, we will tell you what happens after the report is made and show you how the multidisciplinary team works together to assist the child and the family. Now let's hear about the different types of abuse.
Physical child abuse involves physical harm or injury to the child. It may be the result of a deliberate attempt to hurt the child, but not always. It can also result from severe discipline, such as using a belt on a child, or physical punishment that is inappropriate to the child's age or physical condition. Sexual child abuse is an especially complicated form of abuse because of its layers of guilt and shame. It's important to recognize that sexual abuse doesn't always involve body contact. Exposing a child to sexual situations or sexual materials may constitute abuse, whether or not touching is involved. Child neglect is willfully failing to provide for a child's basic needs, whether it be adequate food, medical treatment, clothing, hygiene, or supervision. Sometimes a parent may be physically or mentally incapable to care for a child, such as having untreated depression or anxiety. A parent may have alcohol or drug addiction issues that seriously impair their judgment and their ability to keep a child safe. Emotional child abuse can severely damage a child's mental health or social development, leaving lifelong psychological scars. Examples of emotional abuse can be constant belittling, shaming, and humiliating a child. The parent may be cold and distant, ignoring the child's needs for nurturing. There are some general clues to watch out. Every case is different, and there may be other indicators of abuse or neglect. In New Jersey, preventing child abuse is everyone's concern. Reporting suspected abuse or neglect is an important step in potentially saving a child's life. New Jersey law requires anyone having reasonable cause to suspect child abuse or neglect to report it to the Division of Child Protection and Permanency, formerly known as the Division of Youth and Family Services. The screening hotline phone number is 1-877-NJ-ABUSE, 1-877-652-2873. Even police, therapists, and child protective services workers must report allegations via this number. The Attorney General's office has established guidelines for how joint investigations between law enforcement and the division are to be conducted, and the first step is always initiated by the hotline call. New Jersey does provide a law that protects those who report abuse. It covers any caller, whether you work in a school, in law enforcement, or a counselor, coach, or private citizen. Any person who, in good faith, makes a report of child abuse or neglect or testifies in a child abuse hearing resulting from such a report is immune from any criminal or civil liability as a result of such action. Once the first step of identifying potential abuse has occurred, the division becomes involved.
If you are a law enforcement officer who has received a report of child abuse, call the Division of Child Protection and Permanency Central Screening Hotline and follow the Attorney General's guidelines for joint investigations. If you work in a school and a child approaches you with a questionable mark or bruise or makes a statement indicating abuse, it is important that someone speak to the child as quickly as possible. Do not wait for the end of the day or the class period. If you can't stop to speak with the child, you must ensure that the child is able to speak to someone within the school who can immediately speak privately with the child. It is not the responsibility of school personnel, coaches, camp counselors, or private citizens to conduct an investigation of child abuse allegations. Division and prosecutor staff are trained to complete investigative interviews that are in compliance with court testimony laws and child psychology. Your goal is to gain basic information from the child that suggests the need for further investigation.
Don't make promises you cannot keep, especially if the child asks you to keep their abuse a secret. It is best to be honest with the child from the start and explain that you may need to assist them in getting help by sharing this information with Child Protective Services. Do listen carefully to what the child is saying and check your body language. Children don't like to upset adults. They may stop talking if they think the information is making you angry or sad. Don't criticize the perpetrator because it is likely a family member and the child will feel that they are betraying their family by telling. You want the child to feel comforted and reassured by you. Don't make the child repeat their information to numerous people. This may give the child the appearance that they aren't being believed.
Once you have made a determination that you need to call the Division of Child Protection and Permanency Hotline, have the following information available: child's name and date of birth, sibling's name and date of birth, parents' names, home address and emergency phone numbers, what time the child leaves school for the day, description of the information shared by the child, including exact words used, description of any marks, bruises, or injuries. If you don't have access to all the information, don't let that delay you or stop you from making a timely referral. The division has the authority to interview children at their school without the parent's prior knowledge or consent. Don't contact the parent to report making a referral without first discussing it with the division. A representative of the referring agency should be available to provide comfort to the child, but should not conduct the interview. If the alleged victim has siblings, the division's forensic investigator may also interview them separately. In addition to the initial interview, the division's investigator will complete a comprehensive investigation of the allegations. School teachers and agency administrators can expect to be asked for background information about their knowledge of and history with the family. At the end of the investigation process, the division will determine if the allegations are substantiated or unfounded. If a family requires continuing protective services, the case will be transferred to a permanency worker within the division who will work with the family to determine what types of services can be of benefit. The permanency worker will keep in contact with the school or other referring agency to review the child's progress as services are being provided. The division will either provide or assist the family in gaining access to appropriate services such as addiction and mental health services, parenting skills, and household and financial management. If the division has reason to believe a crime may have been committed against the child, such as sexual abuse or physical abuse, the division will immediately contact the Major Crimes Sex Abuse Unit of the Sussex County Prosecutor's Office.
One of the roles of the Major Crimes Unit is to investigate and prosecute cases of child abuse in Sussex County. Ultimately, it is the county prosecutor who determines whether or not charges will be filed. Child abuse cases can be difficult to prove, and many factors are considered. Statements made by the child victim, the suspect, or other witnesses, the age and maturity of the child's ability to testify, and the presence of medical evidence are all factors that are weighed. Once child abuse is reported, specially trained law enforcement officers work in conjunction with Child Protective Services to conduct an investigation that will include interviewing children, non-offending parents, suspects, and other witnesses. All available evidence is gathered to make the strongest case possible. Many child interviews take place here at Ginnie's house to give the victim a sense of safety and security and to avoid having the child tell their story multiple times. In certain cases, videotapes are made of interviews. These tapes may be helpful in the prosecution, but do not guarantee a child may not have to one day testify. Victims and their families should not be promised that they will never have to appear in court. While many cases are resolved without testimony from the child, it is possible a court appearance may be necessary. If a child's testimony is absolutely needed, our team of professionals will work together to prepare the child for the experience. Throughout the prosecution, victim advocates from the prosecutor's office are available to assist victims understand their rights within the legal system, act as a liaison between the victim and the court, and prepare them for every step of the case.
It is critical to report any allegations of child sexual or physical abuse as soon as possible. In child cases, vital evidence can be gone within hours. When a child is physically harmed, their well-being is of utmost importance, and medical treatment must be given priority. Here at Ginnie's house, the medical staff is specially trained to recognize abuse and conduct examinations. We help the prosecution by documenting any obvious signs of abuse. Although examinations may not always indicate abuse has taken place, a child needs to be reassured that they're okay and have the ability to ask questions.
As families go through the steps of investigation and prosecution, they are faced with many challenges. Caregivers may struggle with many issues, such as blaming themselves and not knowing what to say to their children. Victims typically feel a wide range of emotions and are frequently hesitant to talk about their experiences. Being involved with Child Protective Service workers and police while trying to help their children can be overwhelming. Fortunately, there are several agencies working together to help assess the needs of children and families and to provide the right services and support. The Center for Evaluation and Counseling, Family Intervention Services, Newbridge Child and Family Services, and the Family Advocate Program at Ginnie's House are agencies who collaborate to provide mental health evaluations, therapy, psychiatric services, and emotional support to children and their families. Licensed mental health professionals conduct in-depth forensic evaluations that provide a complete picture of the family dynamics, which is a useful tool for all providers. Therapists provide trauma-focused counseling in a variety of settings, including the family's home and right here at Ginnie's house.
Representatives of these agencies are part of the Sussex County Multidisciplinary Team. This team meets monthly to discuss case status, share information, and strategize about how to best meet the needs of the families as they take steps towards healing. Taking the first step to reporting child abuse can be very daunting. We do hope this video has been helpful in making you more comfortable with the different types of abuse, different signs and symptoms, and with the reporting. Through all of the steps of the process, the initial report, the investigation, the prosecution, the medical examination, and the therapeutic interventions. Professionals of the multidisciplinary team here at Ginnie's House provide a coordinated response to child abuse. Thank you for being part of our team and helping to protect our children.